Hi, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with MM. This is our special edition of our celebration of the International Women's Month. Today it's Saturday and it's March 11, and we are well into the month long celebration, honoring women leaders, ourselves, giving pat on our shoulders, and our friends and mothers, grandmothers, all the women in the world, and all women advocates as well, as we continue to push forward equality and equity. So that has been like a long thought of idea, equity. Equity actually just means fairness, meaning being fair to where people are coming from, where what they have, what they are able to provide, and acknowledging it. So that's equity and what they need as well. So as opposed to equality, equality means being, the same, all equal footing, equal opportunities. But equity is when what you get, what you deserve, you get what you need, what you get, what you are able to deliver in response to what you can deliver, you get back what you deserve. So that's equity. And for me, that's a maturing of the movement for women's rights all over the world. And so I'm so happy to be able to share with you the wonderful women that I had an opportunity to have conversation with through this platform, Conversations with MM. And I'd like very much to share their punchy lines and what they do. It's not just what they, the eloquence of how they talk, but also what they actually do in their professional and personal lives. So let's take a look at this. I'd like to say hi first to tourism director Dr. Zeny Pullugna, who I had a conversation with about late last year. So let's take a listen. Oh, no, no, it was early this year. Let's take a listen to what she's doing to empower the community that is within her jurisdiction of work.
Are
I
encouraging them to do that one community-based tourism, so empowering the local people to provide the tourism activities and
Mhm.
for them to earn money as well. So
That's
we also conduct trainings for them to become on how to prepare food,
uh-huh.
do uh, how to entertain guests.
Right.
So we
That's
do that one, and how to make beds for homestay
for the
program,
resort.
something like that. So we do that one. We do a lot of trainings
That's
for the local communities.
how. Thank you so much, Dr. Zeny Polonia. In my interview, she was the San Francisco tourism attaché in California, and just recently she has just been reassigned in the Philippines to be the regional director of tourism for Region 4, that includes the provinces of Palawan, Marinduque, Sorsogon, and Masbate, if I'm not mistaken. So, all the best to you, Dr. Zeny Polonia, and thank you for being an inspiration to your fellow, to your colleagues at the tourism department for what you do for empowering the community through community tourism. Salute. Also, I'd like to plug in another inspiring woman. She's one of a kind. I would always say she's a stand-up comedian here in New York. Let's hear it from Miss Patricia Dinglasan.
If as comedians, like we're at the forefront of culture
Yes.
and how things are perceived. And I feel like when we can present things in a way that's like light and
Mhm.
funny and relatable, then we change the conversation. and we change people's perspectives.
I agree with you. So, as a comedian, you are naturally a comic, an actor. So you have that in your blood.
Acting comes naturally with comedy because when we're at least when I'm performing from a place of truth.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like half of like a lot of it is like the writing and the timing and everything, but it's also the emotion that's being conveyed through all the writing. So I feel like whenever I'm telling a joke, like it's also my truth and how I really felt at that moment.
That's why it's actually right. So I think it's really hard to tell a joke and make people laugh. Sometimes they can't get it. Sometimes they don't find it funny. So, as according to Patricia, a joke becomes effective when you come from a place of truth. And that is really correct. If you're honest, you can easily just make people laugh and lighten things up, like lighten things that are sad or horrible, and you look at the brighter side of it and joke about it. So I think if you come from truth, you can make people laugh as well and go through solving any problem with a little bit of humor. So thank you, and I really hope to be able to see you perform one of these days, Patricia. But I love our conversation. So that's Patricia Dinglasan. And another one, I actually had an opportunity to interview up close two candidates of Miss Universe early this year with my colleagues Felix Manuel and Boyet Lavrita and yeah, I think that was just the three of us at Tito Rad's in Queens. So let me share our conversation with Miss Seychelles and Miss Mauritius. Actually, I believe that beauty queens are also leaders. They have platforms. They're making sense of their days as beauty queens by charging through different programs that help humanity. Now let's take a listen at this.
Apart from being beautiful and smart, of course.
Well, I come from a very small island, but one of the richest islands of the African continent right now, which many people doesn't know. So when people ask about Mauritius, like always doing the advertising for my country, the time that they start zooming on the map to see where is Mauritius found, it's already I'm already getting there at some point. And by making the difference, I mean, my advocacy is mental health through art and entrepreneurship. So it's all about guiding people to express better themselves, to talk about their emotions through art. And this is why I'm doing also developing their own business with art. And this will be the difference because actually as a Mauritian we didn't have previous girls being placed. It will be the first time with a big I trust, I'm confident, and I'm working hard for that, and I hope that I will stand out and people will see that effort behind it, because it's not only about beauty, physical beauty, I mean, it's about what are you ready to do for the whole universe and your country.
Amazing. Amazing, right? So that's Miss Alexandrine Etoile for you. She's Miss Mauritius for the 2023 Miss Universe Beauty Pageant. And her platform was to help people with mental health problems through art therapy, because she's an artist by profession and by her education as well. So that was a very heartwarming and inspiring revelation from her. And also, I'd like to plug this in from Miss Seychelles.
My advocacy is very close to heart. I lost my family members and my best friend through suicide. So instead of grieving about it, I did grieve. I had a very long process. It was very slow. I'm still grieving till today. I think that time heals all wounds, and slowly but surely it's closing. but mine is suicide prevention with mental health. I wanted to just spread kindness and positivity. I think that's something that we're missing in the world. There's a lot of developments in the world. So basically, I created a platform where I distribute educative resources, which sensitizes and advocates for mental health and suicide prevention, because there's no such thing as too much information, especially when it comes to these topics. They're very taboo. We see it in a very dim and dark light. But I want people to know that you are never alone. We all go through different struggles. Some of us show it more evidently, some of us hide it. But at the end of the day, we are walking each other home. At the end of the day, and it's important to be kind, show love, respect, and tolerance. So that's my advocacy.
Awesome. That was Miss Gabrielle Gontheir, Miss Seychelles Universe 2023. And her platform for leadership and community outreach was on suicide prevention. And because she had a particular personal experience of losing a friend to suicide. So that's something very personal to her. So she said, like, it's important that we express our kindness and our love because people are struggling and we would have no idea up to what extent. So that was another very inspirational revelation from her. And so, ladies, thank you so much for sharing that time with us. It's been a really big honor. And also, here's another quotable woman that I was able to had a conversation with. And this is on being involved, being socially aware in Philippine politics. What is the impact of the exhibit sa inyo po?
For me, it's to relieve and remember what's the true history during the Marcos era, that everyone is claiming that it's a golden era, but unfortunately it wasn't. And so we have to continuously telling the truth so that our future generation will not be corrupt with their thinking. I think that this kind of history that took place needs to be retold so that our future generation will develop their own critical thinking, especially with what happened in this past election. You know, the sons of the dictators won the seat for presidential, and on the early onset of him being the president, trying to revise the history, and we should not allow that to happen. We don't like what happened in the Marcos Sr. regime, and the Duterte's regime will take place again for the third time in the hands of the dictator's son.
There you go. That was Miss Carolina De Leon. She is a community organizer, a leader for the nonprofit organization Damayan, which is based here in New York City. So Carolina was expressing her sentiment on being rooted in history, being truthful, and to continuously espouse what really happened during the dark years of martial law, during the time of President Ferdinand Marcos. And now, with the presidency of his son coming back in politics, the youth, according to her, must be very vigilant. Everybody must be vigilant in protecting their basic freedoms and basic rights and economic rights as well, and human rights, because it is only up to a vigilant people that these rights are preserved and real progress really happens. So salute to you on that, Miss Carolina De Leon, and thank you so much for your sentiment, and continue doing your wonderful community work for the people of New York. Okay, so so far that has been our quotable women for this special edition of International Women's Month. And I'd like to share with you a short video clip where my nonprofit organization, the Women's Immigration and Communications Cafe, produced in 2020. This was during the difficult years of the pandemic, 2.5 years. So WiCafe is a nonprofit which I organized to comply with my master's degree in nonprofit leadership. And so WiCafe is focused on providing an education platform on immigration histories, particularly us here in the US, and also to provide a platform of conversation for women, particularly women immigrants, who so that their documentation problems or social issues could be addressed, and also to provide a platform for entrepreneurial development and networking. So, because it's International Women's Month, it is very timely that I reshare this topic on women leadership and women suppression early on in the young history of the US, where women struggled and tried to make sense of a balanced society or working on it. So, let me share this with you. Please bear with me as I put this forward. Welcome to the fourth part of the American immigration story, brought to you by Women's Immigration and Communications Cafe. Where were the women? Remember that during the Puritan um, era, the women were stereotyped to be submissive to men. There were women who defied that. Now, the first known feminist during that time was Anne Hutchinson. She's from London. She was educated by her dad, who was also a Protestant minister, and she married a pastor, and then they moved to Boston. In Boston, she was a leader of the church, and the ministers, did not like it and told her to stop her meetings, which were done in her house and would reach about 70 to 80 people. And um, she did not stop. So what happened? They charged her with heresy and banished her. So she had to move to Rhode Island. In Rhode Island, her husband died, and when she had to move to the Bronx. And in the Bronx, she was massacred by the Siwanoy tribe, a native tribe, which was at that time an ally of Governor Stuyvesant. Today, her name is memorialized um, by Hutchinson River. So here we see a picture of Hutchinson River. And there were also other women who stood as leaders in the Puritan era of the U.S. Elizabeth Harris was known as the mother of Quakerism in the U.S. She came to Boston and then was prosecuted there. So she visited Virginia and Maryland, and she established Quakers Church there. It's the Society of Friends. Now the Quakers were pacifists, meaning they want peace. Now they thought that Jesus Christ lives in every one of us, and therefore they want equality, they want community, they want simplicity. And in fact, the Quakers, their ideology had become actively part of the abolitionist movement, meaning the abolition of slavery. And we see the leaders of Quakers like Lucretia Mott and Alice Paul. So they also campaigned against slavery. They actually stopped buying slaves already and just worked on their farms all by themselves. Now, while there was so much fighting between the colonists and the natives, there was also women oppression at this time. Now, you would remember the witch hunting of women by the Puritans. This was a lot of movies have been made about this, and this was in Salem, Massachusetts, in 1692. Now, the first to be hanged or lynched was Sarah Good. She was widowed, and Bridget Bishop. So, what is the mindset at that time? When why were women persecuted? You see, there are only two groups of women at that time: the ones that are the bodies of their husbands, or the ones that are allied with Satan. This finds root from the biblical story that Eve was the one who tempted Adam to eat the fruit, and she was in alliance with Satan at that time. And so, because of that, the human misery had happened. So they were told by God to leave paradise and must work hard in order to live. So there was this blaming of the woman um, that has been the culture at that time, the Puritans. This is not unfamiliar. We in the Philippines, Catholics, share this mindset about us women, that we have to be subservient to the husbands because we were from his rib. And if you do otherwise, you're disrupting society. And so this is what happened. The Puritans had been persecuting women. Okay, so that was a part of the education program of WICAFE, wherein we talked of women leadership in the early part of American society during the Puritan period, when the British and Europeans came and established colonies here in the US. And so we see women's suppression was not a new thing. It's an old thing where the patriarchy had to do to be able to establish itself as the uh, dominant power or controller of society. So that's what happened. And so you will see Anne Hutchinson as one of the early leaders that's rooted on religion, that she asserted her right um, to expression and to practice her religion and to have discussions on what really is religion for, and what should it mean to society and to women. So she was being banned by the men around her in her society, and she had to go to Boston and then eventually to New York, where she was unfortunately killed. So that's the one of the sad stories, but the story of struggle of women in asserting their leadership ever since. So when was this International Women's Day born? How come it happened? And so I'd like to feature somebody who's kind of almost forgotten, particularly here in New York, because she's one of the forerunners of the the recognition of International Women's Day, and her name is Theresa Malkiel. She is the forgotten woman behind Women's Day, and Theresa Malkiel was Russian. She was born in Russia but moved to the US, particularly New York, when she was a teenager with her parents. And then she worked in a shirt factory, and she was one of those who struggled to have labor compensation, wages, and a good working condition. And so she wrote this book, Her book is The Diary of the Shirt Waist Striker. She, along with the others, held a strike in order to assert for their economic rights and benefits as workers. So that's Theresa Malkiel for you. And so let me read a little bit on Theresa Malkiel. So she was an American labor activist, a suffragist, meaning she also worked for women's right to vote, and she was an educator. And she rise from a factory work to leadership in the Socialist Party and in the U.S. And this movement helped shape the New York State labor laws. And so she this was in 1891 at the Lower East Side of New York City that Teresa went to work as a cloak maker in a garment factory. So we will not forget that, because with her effort and together with the others, the labor laws of New York took shape, which is not perfect, but it is pretty much equitable, not yet equitable, because you see, right now, ladies and gentlemen, our labor laws are still not quite balanced. Uh, women women are receiving lesser than men per hour, so that's a lot of effort to do. But then it's always a constant. Each generation will always constantly struggle for the betterment of everyone, for better days. So salute to the women where we stand our shoulders on. Thank you so much for all your effort, and to all the women who are currently taking leadership posts right now and developing themselves. Keep on keeping on. That's what life is all about. We always do a lifelong learning process in order to help things better in our community and in our own lives. So I hope you are inspired to continue struggling and making this place a little bit happier for yourself and for others. So I think this is just it for now for our International Women's Day special. We will be coming up with more inspiring episodes in the next few days. So thank you so much for your time, and enjoy life and continue to inspire others. Bye for now. Thank you.